Welcome to Chai and Chat with Mohini. I'm Mohini Singh. Today we're joined by a person whose name is woven into the business fabric of our community and, dare I say, the province. Andre Balanleil is a name everybody knows, but no one really knows how he started his career in business. Welcome to Chai and Chat, Andre.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us into your boardroom. It's pretty fancy here.
I don't know about that, but it works.
This episode, Andre, has been sponsored by the Ponds Liquor Store in the Upper Mission, and there's special reason why the owner stepped up to want to sponsor this episode, and it has a lot to do with you.
Yeah, Deep and I have been friends for a long time.
Yes, and he has a lot of respect for you.
Yeah.
So when he heard I was interviewing you, he said, "Can I sponsor it?" My first question: shoes. What do you know about shoes? You started your business career selling shoes.
I was Al Bundy before Al Bundy was existed. Actually, my part-time job when I was in high school was stock boy at a shoe store, Kinney Shoes back in the day.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
basically, the guy that played my dad's ball team basically was the manager and he needed somebody to work. So I was working every Thursday and Friday and Saturday in the shoe store doing stock. And then eventually I got into sales. And in time, when I graduated, I was going to take a year off, and I was going to go to school. And then decided I got offered the district manager job the
Shoe
assistant
sales.
manager job for Kinney Shoes. And then basically one of our competitors, after about 4 or 5 months, offered me the job to move to them. And then within a year, I was in Calgary managing a Calgary shoe store. And then
So did you see your future was going to be in the shoe business?
I knew my future would be in retail. I don't know about the shoe business, but it certainly taught me a lot. I went through several managers and district managers, and you kind of learn something from everybody every time you see the strengths and weaknesses of everybody, and you try to pick out what works for you and make it work. So then, by the time I was ready to leave, I was district manager of Southern Alberta, and basically had to make a decision. I wanted to come back and live in Kelowna, so my dad had a little TV repair shop. So my dad, growing up, he was a TV repair guy. And basically, it's called Andre's TV, and he had a little space on Springfield. And basically, I bought half the company then. I moved back and started the retail side of the business.
So did you know anything about TV repairs? I mean, you knew nothing about shoes. And
But I wasn't fixing TVs. We brought in stuff to sell. So I was selling
okay.
TVs, and we sold car audio, and basically I ran the retail side of it. And then Dad quit 5 years later. He just decided he didn't. Retail wasn't for him, and he was a very, very smart guy, hardworking, but didn't love people. He was just very bright, but didn't love people. And so he's very good technically, not so good at the people side of things. So basically, I started the retail side. I opened a store in Penticton. It was kind of the next store, and just kind of went from there. And basically,
Andre, but I'm so amazed that in your lifetime, in say 40 years of being in business, without giving your age away,
Yeah, thanks.
for 40 years of being in business, you've done phenomenally well. Like, what's the secret behind the success? What's your secret sauce?
well, first thing is you got to work hard. I tell young people, ask me, what do you do? And I said, just don't give up on things. We had a couple times where things got real tough. Like, we didn't know if we were going to make it. I mean, the lucky thing that I did is I decided to start building real estate as well. So we ended up building the building in Kelowna and then Penticton.
Which building?
The Springfield Road building. We
That building's
we built
yours.
that building.
Okay.
And then we built, basically a building in Penticton and Vernon, and then bought a building and renovated in Kamloops. And kind of that gave us the stability to kind of not just be in retail. We were able to have, the building side of things to kind of fall back on, which we had to a couple of times over the, 40 years of doing what I've done is, using the assets that we had built in the real estate to sustain changes in the industry. I mean, when Future Shop came to town and A&B Sound came to town, that became a very challenging time.
That was going to be my question. How do you deal with the giants that come in? And you're not really the mom and pop operation, but you're the smaller individual independent businessman. How do you compete with that?
Well, that's one of the things I realized is that we couldn't survive on one or two stores. It was either get big or get out. It was really that much of a discussion. It was that simple. One of the key factors is we are the first in the province in the interior BC that do cellular phones. The cell phone business at that time was called BC Cellular, and then became BC Cell, or BC Tel, and then it became and then it became TELUS. So we kind of rolled with that and grew in that business, and that really was really a strong point for us. We basically opened stores based on the fact that we could add cellular and TVs, and then we just kind of expanded the. What we realized is you can't be narrow focused. You kind of got to be the everything store for somebody, especially when you open stores at like Williams Lake and 100 Mile and Terrace and Cranbrook and Nelson and all these different markets. If you can't give them more things to come to see you for, you probably won't make it. You're too busy living on just TVs or just car audio or just home audio. You got to get the whole thing. So, over the years, TELUS has been certainly a driving force. We owned a couple stores in Orchard Park Mall that they bought from us years ago, and basically took that money and kind of became the rural king of TELUS when it comes to having stores. And that's how we're in, Kamloops, of course, but Vernon, Penticton. But then we're in stores like 100 Mile, Williams Lake, Quesnel, Prince George, Terrace, Prince Rupert.
You're pretty well spread out.
Pretty much
interior.
Everywhere. And then over the years, and what I've also done is I've also been able to buy a lot of people in our business, especially in the smaller TV repair business or the TELUS business, kind of had no exit strategy. They're getting older, the kids weren't maybe involved in the business, and basically I acquired several, Pete's TV in Castlegar. We acquired a 4-store chain on the island, Madman McKay's. We Sight and Sound up north. So we acquired a lot of these, mainly for not the fact that we were scared to go in those markets by ourselves, but you acquire the people. The people are the key part of us being in business. So without really good people, like our people are professionals. They do this for a living. We just finished having we have a big year party in April, and, we had, dozens of people there, 10, 15, 20, 25, 27 years with Andre's, because basically, I personally believe it's certainly and I wouldn't obviously be doing this if my two boys weren't involved in the company. I wouldn't have worked.
That takes me to my next question. Is obviously you've built I wouldn't say a kingdom, but I'd say I've built a legacy for your boys to take over. Now you've got 3 boys.
I got 3 boys. 2 of them are in the business with us. Kyle, my oldest, has been with us. He's vice president of the company, and he's been with me for over 20 years. Chad's been 10 years. And then Travis, my youngest one, is in real estate. So I kind of directed him growing up about, once he got into university, is that maybe real estate's a good factor, because over time, I'm going to need somebody to run the real estate side of our business. Going to need, obviously the boys are going to run the electronics business. So really working with them, and, I'm very strong, I tell them that a title's earned, not a title on paper. You got to earn it. So because the success of 2nd and 3rd generation businesses is very, very low. So, they've been placing rebar at 12 years old. They've been working in the stores, tearing down, so they've been involved in the business from day one. And
so that's your succession plan.
That's yeah, definitely. The company is never for sale. It's basically going to go to the boys, and they never could afford to. We got 33 stores now, so.
So what do you say to young people now who are looking at this and saying, boy, I'd like to do that? You're saying hard work, but it means hard work, money, the lines have to.
We had zero money. I mean, it was back in the day, it was called Business Development Bank. I would borrow money from them to build a building and literally use sweat equity. Like we would get quotes from other contractors, and then we would build it. We'd be in the ditch. My brother's an electrician, he's part of the company, and basically we would build the building from scratch. So we were able to kind of build our equity with basically sweat equity, which I still do. I mean, I'm still in the ditch. Now we're doing McCullough's, my next little project, and not exactly a little project, but
you're not planning to retire and just
retire. You get old and get boring. I'm not that guy. I mean, my brother loves golfing, and both my brothers are avid golfers, and I need something to get out of bed for. And for me, building stuff is kind of my satisfaction in life. I'm the least guy when it comes to money. I never actually really focused on money. I've never taken a big wage, and we don't live in a big house. My thing is success and also, giving back to our people. We've run a program now for probably 15, 20 years now, where we have an RSP program for our staff members, and we bonus out over $500,000 a year back to our staff, our key management staff, every year.
And that's your gift to the community, basically, gift to your company, gift to your people.
Well, but we also do a lot of donations.
Yeah.
We've got an Andre's Give Back program that, it was a point where, people are calling, like, I get a donation for this, or I get a donation for that. Well, obviously, once we get bigger, we can't do that. So every store and every market, because we want to make sure we're giving it all the communities, whether it's 100 Mile House or Terrace or Kelowna, where we can donate. So every manager has a budget for what we call the Andre's Give Back program, which typically is targeted at kids, either in sports or in arts, but mainly kids is what we're shooting for in that donation realm. So kids minor hockey or a music band or whatever that we try to help through there. But we do it for all the stores have their own budget because it's otherwise you can't manage it. We have a couple other bigger budgets where if we do something bigger than what would be normally done, we would do that. But typically every manager and assistant manager have a budget in each market.
Andre, let me go back to as we come to the end of this conversation, I just want to go back to the advice for younger people. Hard work, get in the ditch, work diligently, all that is fair, but there's got to be good luck come your way.
No, I don't believe in good luck.
You don't
I
believe
think
in
you
luck.
make your luck.
So what do you say to young people?
Well, I think first of all, nobody's going to give you everything. I mean, we had nothing. My mom and dad had nothing. We started with nothing. But if you think that the world owes you and that you need to be lucky, you're handicapping yourself. Hard work. Find something you like. Find something that makes you tick. I've also never worried about hours. There's lots of times we're working 12. When we go to work in these stores, we're 12, 15-hour days still. When we do a renovation or a store build, there's no big lunch breaks. There's no, we're done at 5 o'clock. It's you're there from 8 in the morning till midnight if you have to be. So I think don't be a time puncher.
Yeah.
Find your passion and put the effort in. And I always had to. So for example, I was kind of growing up, like my dad was, like I say, we had no money, but because we had no money, my dad fixed everything. We couldn't get a plumber or we couldn't get we learned to fix stuff. So I think from a young person's point of view is don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. We got so many people these days that are big on their phones and the computers, which granted, there's some great opportunity there as well. But you can also kind of get your hands dirty and, buy an old house. I mean, I did that several times. I bought an old house, I renovated it, I tore plumbing out, I reboarded it, or I do, so I mean, I always had a philosophy, like I had a goal, like every year I want to do something in my mind. I had, whether it was me building a new house, as far as just to build it or flip it or whatever, or if it was me adding a new store or a major renovation or purchase. I always had I was always a fan of it, interesting enough, because I'm absolutely not communist, but I was always a fan of the Russian system because I always had a 5-year plan. And for me, I always had a 5-year plan. Where do I want to get to? But you can't look at the 5-year plan. You got to look at what's today. What can you handle? And if it means working a little harder, buying an old house and repainting it, maybe you don't live as fancy as your buddies. You don't have a fancy car, but you're working to get ahead. And
So
to me,
you know
that's
what?
always been that.
You have, for all the years that I've known you, I've heard from young people saying you've been like a mentor to them. That's why the person who sponsored this episode said to me, I look up so much to Andre. I would like to sponsor that episode. So you should really take that as a vote of
Oh, I do,
confidence.
absolutely. I mean, I look at, so that's, I had the speech the other day when we had our big party. I mean, we've got 260 employees. I look at that we're responsible for 260 families to make sure they have a living in BC. So I take that very seriously. So, I mean, for me, for example, I'm headed down on next week to our President's Club, where we have our top 25 performers, our top salespeople. We take them out, we do training with them. They have every morning we have a one-on-one with the president. Give me your ideas. In fact, the young guy downstairs is coming on how we can improve as a company. To me, I've got a line which probably my staff are sick of hearing, but my thing is, if you're standing still, you're actually going backwards.
Yeah.
So you always have
I've
to
heard
get
that
better
before, yes.
at what you're doing. So for us, even though
Yeah.
we've been doing this for a long time, can we use I mean, I know AI is a big thing. Can we use AI to be better? Can we give our staff more tools to be successful in the place, right? I mean, our goal is to make sure the customer gets the right product and the right service. And that's why, and again, I certainly don't want to insult any of my competitors, but a lot of the big box stores, it's people in and out. It's not a career for them. It's just, so they tend to, when a customer comes, they kind of hide, or they know about as much as it's on the brochure. For us is about building, making sure when you walk into one of our Andre stores that you're getting really good service, that you're getting help that you won't get anywhere else. Because that's how you build a clientele. People go, oh yeah, I dealt with this person, like Ryan downstairs got a great following just of this location in the last number of years. But it's because he's worked really hard, we've worked really hard with him, and he's worked really hard to get to know the business. So that's
Andre,
key.
if you were to look back to 16-year-old shoe salesman Andre, what would you say to him?
I
From
don't think
where
I'd
you're at
say a
today.
lot different except work hard. Work hard. And I always had that, and I do credit my dad especially on the hard work factor, because like I say, we had a vineyard when it wasn't even cool to have a vineyard back before it was way cool. I mean, my grandfather planted the Foch grapes in Quails Gate. We imported those from France, and we did our own vineyard on where Two Eagles Golf Course is.
Oh.
And we were digging ditches literally because we didn't have any money. So the three boys were kind of slave labor, you could call us. We worked every day, every weekend, putting in a vineyard, and we had that for 15 years. In fact, my grandfather died on that property. So it was one of those things that they taught us how to work.
So are you happy with the person you are today? I know you're highly accomplished, but as a human being?
I think I try hard. I mean, nobody's perfect. I've made lots of mistakes. I mean, play ball against me, you'll know my mistakes I've made, because I probably hit you with a fast pitch. But no, I think I've tried to work hard to build something that we can be proud of as a family. And but I also am very proud of my boys. Making sure they're good people, because sometimes money can be a very bad thing. And we all know that through our city council days, seeing different families. And so I for me is making sure that they're humble, and they were all hockey players. I said, don't ever say how good you are. Let other people talk about if you're a good player or not, because that's a true. You look at Crosby; they never talks about how great he is. He lets other people talk about how great he is. So I think to me, it's about never going out and bragging it, never having the showboat attitude, to just get down and work. And that's why I'm wearing a t-shirt, because I'm headed to McCullough this afternoon to fix my digging my irrigation lines, actually. So for an area we're doing. So yeah, I mean, to me, it's my big thing is able to teach my boys to be solid, good human beings, and I think that's critical. And I think families, we probably don't spend enough time, I think, on that, because we're so damn busy doing everything else. But that's a big factor for me, is making sure that we're being good humans. And I mean, trust me, I've made lots of mistakes. I'm not saying I'm great. I've made a lot of mistakes, but at the end of the day, I think one of the mistakes I haven't made is my boys being bad people. And I think for me, that's my being proud of.
Congratulations. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Chai and Chat. We'll be back with yet another episode in the next 15 days. Bye-bye.